as a early career person or a young professional in that new job, what have you found to like one or two things that you've seen people do that have been made them most successful in that kind of first 6 months in a role? Or even yourself, I guess, too.
Um, I think the most important thing is coming in and really um, don't walk in thinking you know everything, right? That's probably one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make. And instead, approach it that you're coming in those first 90 days, let's just use that number, to understand the role, to get to know the organization, and just to figure out how that works. And then build relationships, because that's how you're ultimately going to be successful. None of us knows all the answers, and we need to have others that we can go to bounce ideas off of, to just to learn from. And so focus that time on building those relationships, whether it's with your boss or your peers, or the broader, we talked a little bit about the matrix structure, right? The broader groups around you. But also make sure that it's not superficial. You want those to be quality relationships, not quantity.
What we've heard actually, again, that's come up quite frequently is don't always be focused on like vertical growth, but also think about horizontal growth in your career, because they said that, if you keep aspiring just to get these promotions and like tack them on your wall in a sense, you can very quickly find yourself, yes, very high, but you're super narrow. And so as a result, it's not always, especially if you want to make that more executive leadership jump, it can be very difficult at that point. So there's actually a lot of suggestion of like, don't always necessarily just go for promotion or salary. Actually think about, okay, what other parts can I learn about a business? And that actually over a longer term puts me in a much stronger position over that time.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, if I look back at my career, right, I went to Hong Kong. I was a regional manager. When I came back to the US in California, I took a role first as a senior relationship manager and then as a credit lead position that we had. And if you look at official title, I was in that credit role for, I don't know, just under 10 years probably. But during that time, I had that responsibility within different lines of business. And so, that was very much, to your point, more horizontal. But I was growing and developing my skills by, at one point looking at early stage tech credit, looking at large corporate, tech credit, looking at life sciences, looking at regular commercial industries. So I think you have to just grow your skills, work with different people, and again, like I said before, focus on the opportunity at hand and what you're learning and how you're growing, and don't just forget, don't not pay attention to that and think only about the end game.
On that topic of leadership and kind of management, one thing I think a lot of students are really interested in is just that transition from, individual contributor to manager or kind of
Mhm.
executive roles. How did you prepare yourself for the transition, and what do you think has been the biggest difference between those kind of two types of roles for you?
Sure. I think from a preparation standpoint, it was really a gradual process. The roles that I was in just gradually afforded me more responsibility to mentor others, like more junior talent, right? To help them from a technical standpoint, to help them with relationship building and overall career development. And those are many of the same things that you do as a manager or a leader. And so, doing that initially just through not direct responsibility, but, expectations, helped with that. And then through that, that helped me identify what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, how can I balance those, what am I trying to get out of, going to that next stage, so that I could prepare myself. And then I think, the biggest change is you're giving up direct responsibility. And so you really have to be able
Was
to
that
trust
tough?
your, You can be, absolutely. I mean, you have to trust others, right, to be able to do their jobs, and instead be there for guidance as opposed to doing it yourself. And so that obviously can take a lot of work for sure. You're focused on your technical capabilities and your ability to complete a task versus, when you're leading, you have to have that bigger strategic, big picture, right? And you have to be able to have a plan for the business overall. And if you're going to achieve that plan, you can't do it all yourself.